Ladies and gentlemen, we're back.
We're back.
We're back.
Rock and Roll Brunch, episode number 29. Today we are talking about a vinyl company that screwed the pooch and the Flatliners' new one, new ruin, all that, plus so much more, all on today's show. Let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Rock and Roll Brunch podcast, episode number 29. My name is Josh Marcanti, and I will be your host. With me, the boys are back in town.
The boys are back in town.
I was debating whether I should actually play that on my phone. We're
gonna get flagged. We're gonna get flagged.
With me, as always, the boys are back. Chris Marcanti. Chris, welcome back to the show.
I feel like I look like I haven't done a podcast at 5 a.m. in a while. I feel like that's what I look like.
You look like how I feel.
Is that true?
You both look great.
Glowing.
Just
come on.
Just knock it off.
Come on. Dane did his hair today before the episode.
I take it back. You look like shit. You look awful.
That third voice you heard is Mr. Dane Urbach. Dane, good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
How are you?
He's back.
I'm tired.
He's back.
I'm all tired. I've been on the road a lot this summer.
He's a road
back,
warrior.
though.
He's a road dog.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's a whole nother level of like parent leveling up that happens when you drive 3 kids like around the country.
How was the
braved that
3
yet.
kid 20-hour drive? That had to have been like,
So we caught COVID in Florida.
that's
And-
cool.
Yeah.
That's where you
and-
catch COVID, by the way.
Was that
Yeah.
third time or second time?
No, second.
Yeah, congrats.
And it was all before, like, it was like
Yeah,
we were
congrats.
sitting at home and we were like, oh, here are all these news reports coming out that, like, that BA5 just
Yeah.
guys goes around prior immunity. So we were like,
Yeah.
it was just really bad. So we were going to take 2 days to come home and, chop it up. And then we all caught
And
COVID.
spread
And we were like,
COVID
we
across
just
the
need to
nation.
get
Oh.
home. Well, right. We were like,
Yeah.
we just need to get home. We don't want to stop somewhere again. And we did do a 10-hour drive in one day, and that was a lot with COVID.
Wow.
But I don't know, our kids are just old enough to not be like a baby crying in the backseat every time like
Sure.
they wake up
Yeah.
from a nap, and to be entertained by their Switches. But then when they're not playing their Switch, or like when we want them to do something else, sometimes there's just a big like beat the shit out of each other kind of fest in the backseat.
That's how it's always gone for most families. So I don't think
I'm
that's
sure.
too crazy. But
In my mind's eye, I'm imagining Chris Farley in
with coughing, though.
and Billy Madison, where you're just like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'll turn this
I,
damn bus around. But with
while sweating and coughing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the fever and
Yeah, and then running in. What is that? What kind of bird is that at the end? Penguin? No, a swan.
Billy Madison?
Yeah,
Well, he chases the penguin around in the penguin
That's
suit.
what it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he says, "Stop looking at
We're
me,
already
swan."
off the rails,
Yeah,
though,
we are.
aren't we?
We're way
But
off
that's
the
all
rails.
right.
yeah. Where it's we're not as sharp as
Chris,
we used to when we're quoting Billy Madison.
Can you tell us how you've managed to avoid getting COVID so far, and how much that I want to just say on the record it pisses me off. 'Cause
Wait, you haven't gotten it once?
not even one time.
Not
Technically.
officially.
Yeah,
not
not
officially.
officially.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is it's the ginger, I think is what it is. It provides
It
you some
burns it.
immunity.
It burns it.
It just burns it right out.
Burns it right
Yeah.
out. It's
When
just
you don't have
Fuck.
a soul or whatever, like there's nothing to attach to.
Right.
So
There's nothing to infect.
That's exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
It just kind of goes
I get
in,
it.
it goes, we're good here, and then keeps on moving. So
That's upsetting.
yeah.
That is upsetting. We did get a second round in my house as well. I managed to avoid it, but others did not.
The old COVID double down. That's what they call it. Yeah.
The COVID double down.
Dude, it's just like now it's one of those things where like you don't really have to. You could really do whatever you wanted, and you'll probably somehow still get it, unless unless you're immune,
Unless
like
unless you
yeah.
have a ginger complexion and blood running through your veins and so we as a pod, I'm talking to the listeners now, had a very busy summer.
The cast.
So we opted to just not fight each other's schedules and kind of wait until things calm down a little bit. And Dane's back in town, and me and Chris are slowing down a little bit on shows, so we're able to wake up at 5 a.m. and
We should call it like season 3, where it's a new season.
Season 3.
They do podcasts
for sure.
and seasons
Well,
now.
isn't it like sitcoms would always like take a break for the summer, and this show's so fucking funny, It's like
Yeah. We're like a sitcom.
we're like a sitcast.
Okay.
Podcom.
Okay.
Podcom.
Podcom?
I like Podcom actually.
Podcom feels
Dane's
dangerous
ruminating.
to say.
Podcom. So close.
Let's keep working on it, guys. Let's workshop
Podcom.
this a bit more.
Keep working on
Let's keep working. We're workshopping this
Podcom.
one.
Notes.
Catch it. Dane, what have you been listening to in all these road tripping, cross country, Johnny Appleseed, COVID spreading?
I have no new music because I haven't talked to Dane.
Oh, really? I have a lot of new music, but when we road trip, we always go back to old music. That's just sort of like a thing. We almost never listen to something new. So it's just a lot of Jimmy Eat World and the Get Up Kids and stuff like that we've liked our whole life. Here are some bands that I've been listening to a lot lately. Have you heard of Her Head's on Fire?
No.
Iodine Records or Iodine Recordings is kind of like an older record label from like the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't know if I have that totally right. And they kind of quieted down / disappeared. And they're back. And they just have been churning out a bunch of older bands that are releasing new stuff and newer bands that have people from older bands. Her Head's on Fire is really interesting. It's got... shoot, I'm not going to get any of these names right now. Now that... the guy from
shoot.
Well, it's got members of
We've been
like
gone, but nothing's changed.
Saves the Day. Hold on, I'm gonna look it up. Her Head's on Fire. It's got do you guys know who Jeff Dean is? He was in a bunch of Chicago punk bands. I don't know. Anyway, they're a cool band. I think they're just sort of like they feel to me like a band that I really would have liked in like 2008, and that all of their bands I really liked in 2008, and now they're just back at it, writing cool punk, emo-ish tinged like stuff.
Cool.
I'm also.
We'll have to check some of that out.
Have you heard Strategies yet?
Nope.
Strategies is cool. It's like the dudes from The Ghost. Yeah.
That's why that sounds familiar.
With Neil Hennessy from the Lawrence Arms playing drums.
For real?
Yeah, and it's very like but it's a lot mellower.
What's it called?
Strategies. They just released the album or their EP yesterday, I think. So it should be all out there and stuff. It's that one's a good one.
I don't see it, but for Albert Frantic research,
we'll find it.
They released a single called Outages.
Yeah, listen. So I don't know when the full EP should be out soon if it's not out yet, but it's very good. And then
goodness.
I've been listening to this band called Ithaca, who's very like metalcore-y. And so they have this woman who sings, but she's got a really good voice, and like her singing voice sounds like, I don't know, the melodies remind me of like Circa Survive a little bit, or something like that. But like her screaming voice is just like top-notch screaming voice, and like there's some good screaming voices and bad ones.
Right.
And just the riffs are really heavy. And that one surprised me because I haven't been in a super heavy music mood lately, and that one just, I don't know, keep going back to it. So
yeah.
Right.
Strategies. I have to check that out.
I'm
that
definitely
seems
checking
like
that out.
That seems like a must listen to.
yeah.
Huh.
What about you guys?
Thanks for those recommendations. Yeah, that's the thing about doing the pod is that Dane's he's got his finger on the pulse,
Not
Chris?
really.
He's fingering the pulse.
He's fingering the
my
pulse. That's
gosh,
what it is.
guys.
That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Chris, anything you want to highlight?
A couple things. One, we went and saw Craig Finn this summer, and he put out a new record, which is actually very, very good. But he, you have to have like a taste for Craig Finn. So I don't know if you guys actually have that taste for Craig Finn. But one thing I want to make sure to not skip over is the new Coheed and Cambria record. Now I don't know. I feel like I haven't been hanging out with Coheed and Cambria records since like, I don't know, like Keeping Secrets or something, and then like fell off. But this new Coheed record is so goddamn good. It is just, it's been on repeat most of the summer as it's been available. And
it's literally everyone who's telling me this, by the way.
You haven't listened to it yet, Dane?
I don't. Are you like a Coheed?
I love
Coheed guy.
I loved Coheed, but again, until like, which one? The one with the number 4 on it. I don't remember.
Yeah,
what that
in
one
Keeping Secrets of the
Keeping Secrets.
No. That's Good Apollo. I'm Burning Star 4. I don't have that looked up. That's by memory.
That was impressive.
Thank you.
I am telling you, this is like they like took the band to a whole new level. I don't know what it is about this record, but it is like front to back one of my like favorite records.
Let me tell you that, Dane, that Chris is not pulling a Chris right now and like overhyping.
He doesn't overhype. I've never known Chris to overpromise.
Chris, you're telling me Chris isn't a salesman?
Well, he is.
Okay.
But I don't think I trust his music. Like usually if he says something's okay, like I'll go and check it out and find that I enjoy it.
Let me just say that he's exactly right, and this record is like Coheed's back, and it's like, you know, the first like track I was like, oh, here we go, where they're doing something that's like, it's the introduction, and then it's like, gush,
and it's kind of nonstop. The whole record,
and it's like, it's them, but it's the new and updated. It's you're in for a treat. You're in for a treat.
I'm looking at all these other albums that I've skipped. Like I've skipped like 10 years of 15 years of albums.
We all did.
What happened was their single on this record is called Shoulders, and I was like, all right, let me check out the new Coheed single, and it fucking rips. I mean, it is so good.
He's not overhyping it. It is front to back. The record is that good and more.
All right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you guys aren't the only ones. I've heard it from a bunch of other people, and for some reason it just keeps going like, okay, I'll check it out, and I haven't. Yeah. So it's added to my library now.
It's that like you can I'll walk away from this, but you can listen to that record and not know what the fuck he's talking about, and still experience an epic. And I don't mean an epic as in like, well, that was epic. I mean an epic as in like Ben-Hur. Like you experience the story just by like the music and like the way he's talking about whatever's happening. Like you don't necessarily need to follow the story, which is like, by the way, I think maybe a stroke of genius where it's like, hey, this can be your entry point. It's just hop in and start, following the story. It's almost like self-contained, but holy shit. Anyway.
Yeah. And then I want to make a plug for the new Goldfinger record. Or it's like they did like a reissue type thing where they reworked a bunch of their old songs, including 99 Red Balloons, which is now on repeat in my house. Olive loves a song about balloons. So
Never Look Back, is that the one?
Yeah, it's a deluxe. It's like they reworked some old songs from their last record, and then redid Superman and redid 99 Red Balloons and stuff like that. So it's a good updated versions of some of these songs.
Cool.
Josh, what about you? What have you been listening to?
I have a few. I got into St. Paul and the Broken Bones. Chris, we've never talked about them.
I don't know why. They're a phenomenal band.
They're right up your alley.
Yeah.
Especially some of their older records, like their newest one. The newest one was like, it was a little meh. But like their oldest ones, and I'm trying to pull it up now, but don't worry about it.
I will say, if you haven't checked out their Tiny Desk sessions,
I did actually.
The NPR Tiny Desk stuff. It is powerful stuff. There's like 30 of them all crammed in the corner of an NPR office.
It's insane. So yeah, St. Paul and the Broken Bones. I really want to highlight them. And then Emery released a new record. You guys,
Emery, the band Emery released a new record.
if you want to listen to something that will punch you right in the testicles, yeah. So I haven't listened to Emery since 2005. Which
You getting back into the God circuit, Josh?
hold on, are they a Christian band?
I'm almost 110% positive that they are a Christian rock band.
Interesting. Well, this is a good record.
Josh is going to re-listen to that record.
All right. Well, I'm out. I'm back out. I'm back out again. They had a new record come out called "Rub Some Dirt on It." It's very good, and that's all I really want to talk about. So
I mean, I know who Emery is, but I've never heard of that other band at all. So you guys are turning me on to
St. Paul and the Broken Bones.
St. Paul and the Broken Bones. It's not something that you're going to enjoy.
It's not.
Why?
It's very it's very indie rockish with
It's like
mixed instruments and
It's like blues and R&B.
Are there
is the
xylophones?
technical.
there's xylophones.
Sure.
There's
Dane, one that let's put it. I'll give you another recommendation that you might like. Viagra Boys. I don't know if you.
Oh, I know
listen to them.
Viagra Boys.
Yeah. They
Okay.
have a new one out.
I listened to that based on that weird guy at the show the other day, and I was like, what am I listening to here?
Yeah. All right. Well, I say.
Was that a soundboard noise?
Yeah, it was. I'm surprised you liked them, Josh. That's why that was making that noise. It was.
Oh! I thought you were making that noise because you have the tummy grumbles and you were trying to relieve some. Let's go ahead and hop into the meat of the show. This one is brought to us by the good folks ever at the WashingtonPost.com. We
don't get a lot of those.
Well, I was gonna say our journalistic integrity has really jumped up. You know, when you give the stories room to breathe and come about, we can start higher elevating. This one, how a Phoenix record store owner set the audiophile world on fire. Like I said, brought to us by the good folks at Washington Post. I'm going to do a bad job summarizing this story, but it is fascinating. We like to we're vinyl adjacent over here at the Rock and Roll Brunch podcast. So this one really is a story about how
It's a real disservice to Dane calling us vinyl adjacent.
No, I would agree.
You'd agree that you're vinyl adjacent?
Well, I'm definitely not the audiophile.
This is what I mean.
Up in arms about MoFi.
This is what I mean.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
We're not like. So it's in regard to this company MoFi, who's specifically supposed to be catering towards audiophiles, and that's not us. Like, we're adjacent. We all have like fine record players. You know what I mean? It's not really for us, but the company MoFi has been touting their taking records directly from the masters and putting it to vinyl. Trying to capture that warmth, capture the
I want to be specific.
please.
The analog masters,
The analog
right?
masters.
Like the
Yeah,
tape
well,
masters.
right.
Nothing
So
along the process, or so they said,
Right,
was
so-
digital at all.
Right. So they didn't acknowledge the digital process, which is called direct stream digital.
That
they
was
didn't
their
acknowledge
process too.
Right,
Yeah.
right. So they didn't acknowledge the digital process of putting out these reissues, and the entire vinyl world, considered them to be one of the top players in this realm. And so I thought the most interesting thing was that they were coming out with this reissue for Michael Jackson, and people online started going, well, hang on, if you're going to be using the original tape masters, you're going to ruin the masters, and if you're talking about putting this much out, something's not right here. And so with some digging, it ended up being exposed that MoFi is not all analog and is using a digital process. So here we are having this top company kind of exposed for not being completely honest with their master or with their process. So that being said, which I feel like I did a pretty good job of.
That's
Yeah,
not
you did
terrible.
fine.
Thank you.
No,
Thank
you
you.
did all right.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. So there's a pull quote from the article. The problem is the word analog has become a hype word. Most people don't know how records are made. And you can factually say that a record was sourced from an original analog tape. You're not lying, but it doesn't disclose to the consumer what's been going on in the beginning and the final product. Being that we're not audiophiles in the strictest sense, where does this land with you guys? Should MoFi have been more honest? Does it matter? Chris, where are you at with this one?
The first is that I feel like the reason I liked this article is because it's like the resurgence of like web forums, where
Big
they're
time.
like, hold on a second. This is like the don't fuck with cats or whatever.
It's
like
exactly right. That's
with
exactly right.
records.
Dane, have you watched that documentary? Don't fuck with
No,
cats.
but it's
Don't
been
fuck
on
with
our
cats.
list to watch for a long time.
Now you're gonna
you
have,
should.
Now you're gonna have
it's,
to.
It's
All right.
really good. And we recommend music and movies. And then the second is how quickly the president of MoFi was like, he's right.
Chris,
There was
folds. Just folds,
I feel like any decent company, they're like, hey, deny till you die. Just deny till you die. And he was like, he got us.
They'll never know. Got him.
We're going to jail.
I got the vibe though that this company is like, it's
Can't be part
not
of the
like
story.
they didn't. It's not like they were trying to hide it. It's just like we just didn't. Hey, we're just not talking about this thing that we do that digitizes. And then all of a sudden a dude sat down for an interview and was like, yeah, then we digitize it. And the guy's like, it's not like anyone was trying to be, or I don't necessarily get the vibe that they were trying to be sneaky about it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It sounded like closer to just subverting the truth, where like they just decided it wasn't going to be out front because the whole of the audiophile community was convinced that these folks were doing it with good reason, and they never came out and really denied that in any sort of abject way until this guy got on the podcast where it was just like, he caught us.
Got him.
Immediately. It was like, yeah,
We got
going
him.
straight, going to jail. I love that he just didn't bother.
As a guy who's like at the most basic beginner level of recording,
Listen, here we
mixing,
go.
mastering, yeah.
This is who
Like,
you are now.
In the article, this is me now. This is me. This is just me. They had talked about the digital process and specifically how it relates to audiophiles. Here's a bunch of audiophiles talking about like the warmth and the trueness of analog and how it can't be replicated, can't be replaced. And then they go, well, it has been, and you've been listening to it and buying
This
it
whole time.
and buying it and reselling it for more and rebuying for more, and you've been duped.
To me, it's like, oh, sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
I was just gonna it's twofold. One, nobody knows what the fuck they're talking about, right? Even if all the audiophiles out there, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, right? And then number two, like I think I do listen to records for specifically that warmth, that like, there is. I do feel like there's like almost like a coldness to some digital, but what I'm getting at is you can replicate that warmth. That can be replicated if you dive into any mixing and mastering process. You can work miracles, and so to their point in the article where they're like, hey, this isn't like MP3s ripping from Napster, but like it was back in the day. You guys are idiots. You don't have any idea. Is that where, do you feel like that's the same? Like these guys are idiots, audiophiles are idiots, or do you feel like they have a leg to stand on? They should have been, they should be told what's actually happening.
No, I don't want to say they're idiots. I actually have met some people
So nice.
who are. It's like they do know what they're talking about. I don't think they'd call themselves audiophiles though. They're people who work at mastering places who understand like how vinyl is cut and like You know what I mean? Like when they start talking to you, your eyes sort of glaze over because you're like, I don't really know what you mean when you're talking
I should
about
know
this
what
stuff.
they're talking
Well,
about.
I do. I mean, I know what they're talking about, but they go into such complicated detail. That you're
Are they
like,
professionals or are they like
yeah,
professional
like you know, like
enthusiasts?
there's been a couple of people, I think 2 or 3 over the course of my like jaunt into record labeling, where I've met some people who really, really know what they're talking about in terms of the frequency of certain kinds of vinyl and the way, like what frequency can be captured onto vinyl versus what can't. And but I've always had a really hard time with this idea that vinyl records are more warm. And I'm not trying to like argue necessarily with you, Josh, but just
Get
it's
'em.
more this like dude, vinyl records I don't really think there's a huge sound difference. They might sound warmer because they're being played in your room or in your like living room out of that the slightly nicer speakers, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do think that here's what I'll say. I do think that there's an audio difference between a vinyl record and something played on Apple Music.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that I'm not going to say it's because it's been all analog or because I just think to me, and good God, I could be wrong and I probably am, but I think it's just part of the process of listening to something physical that you get the imperfections, you get the it's not just playing a file,
Right. And
that there's an audible difference.
And I wouldn't argue that there isn't a difference. Like they do sound different, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like I guess I feel like people who are really, really, somebody who's willing to pay $200 for a Michael Jackson record that is mastered in such a way that you can hear his breathing a little bit more between the takes of like the vocal takes or something, or like that snare drum sounds just got a little bit more high end or a little bit more reverb. Like I don't know what you're listening for in those, like
couldn't agree
you
more,
can
yeah.
get a copy of Thriller in a dustbin. Well, you used to be able to get a copy of Thriller in a dustbin for $1.50 at a resale shop. And now, we're spending like $400 on Discogs to get this MoFi one. And so I think what I like about this story is the fact that they're kind of calling bullshit on this. Like that the way record technology, and not recording technology, but like record pressing technology is now, is like you can capture it super high fidelity and it sounds great, and you'll listen to it and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I've never heard this song sound so clear. But then you can also go onto Apple Music, which has probably got that weird little like tag on it.
Infinity thing.
Yeah, whatever it is, right?
Lossless or whatever.
And you can put headphones on and listen to it the same way.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, like whether you're cranking it really loud in your car or at work or in your living room, might not matter what medium you're using.
Right.
It's just like it's gonna sound better now because we've made that point. And this article seems to suggest that like, hey guys, you might be falling for the like, this is an ESP guitar instead of an LTD thing, even though they're made in the same factory, or like this is you're playing an Epiphone. Gibson guitars, like obviously, I mean, this is a poor metaphor. You know what I'm saying?
It's falling apart.
Apply it to literally like anything. This aged beef, this IPA,
My brain immediately went to these like blind wine tasting studies they were doing of like $150 bottle of wine and a $5 bottle of wine, and people were like, oh, the $5, they're blind tasting it, and they immediately think the $5 one is the $150 one because they have no fucking idea what they're talking.
This is what I'm saying.
And there's art that's like that too, like in museums, something that was slapped together by an artist real quick versus something that was toiled over, but one might not be worth as much as. I mean, a lot of this has to do with marketing.
My brain goes to Frank Reynolds. Shit.
Yeah.
Derivative.
Shit. Yeah.
I love it. I must have it. That's a dehumidifier.
But that's what I mean is like there's this story in some ways is about a business that's like, hey guys, you should be You know,
It's a
like this is
marketing
as false advertising, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's a bad move, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the part of this story is the like audiophiles, you thought you were getting one thing and you ended up getting another. But I think the fascinating part of this story has to do with how we value things and how we designate value onto things, and why is an album, you know, like Thriller, or I don't even know what Michael Jackson record they're talking about. They were talking about Beatles records. I mean, like
Yeah,
some of
I
the
think it was-
most pressed music of widely distributed music of all time, but these ones are special.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think how we apply value to things is kind of an interesting part of this story.
Listen, I have tinnitus in both ears, so there's no part of of quality audio that I hear in anything. It's just a solid feedback whenever I'm listening to. That's exactly what's going on.
I'm surprised.
So
I'm actually surprised you heard that.
Yeah. There are so many frequencies I don't hear. We have like the thermometer that goes in your ear, and it beeps when it's done. I'll just sit there with it in my ear, and Amanda's like, "It beeped, guy. Take it out of your ear." I'm like, "Oh, okay,
Take
sounds
it out.
good."
Take it out.
Yeah, so
Take it up, Terry.
that's why I like, and I don't drink wine. That's why it's like the same thing in my mind of like these people that are like, "Oh, the wine has the blah 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 notes," and you're like, you have no idea what.
This
you're
is what I'm saying.
talking about.
Then that Dane. That's why I was asking about like, was it a professional? Like, if a professional mastering engineer said, "Here's the difference that you'll never hear," I'm like, I'm gonna stare wide at it and be like, "You're a genius." But if it's somebody sitting in their living room with like, "I spent $5,000 on this setup," and I can hear, I'm like, "Shut the fuck up! You don't know what you're talking about." That's what that's specifically what I mean.
Well,
I think
and
you
there's
can
arguments.
enjoy it without.
There's arguments about the record pressing process, about using like lacquers versus using what they call like DDM. I think it's DDM. It's like, but there's a process where you can like make a digital master from digital files as opposed to like cutting into like the lacquer. Do you guys know what lacquers are?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So goddamn lacquered up.
Yeah. But one of them, you know, is like literally cut, and the other one is like etched using more like a more digital process. And people are like, "No, you can't do that DDM stuff." Is it DDM or D? Oh, it's like digital DMM maybe. I've
take your
done
word
both,
for it.
and I've never
DMT.
heard a difference in the quality of the final recording. And I've got some bad sounding records in my collection. You know, some ones where you put it on, and everything that's past a certain frequency is just like, and you're like, "Ooh, that doesn't sound good." But you know, like I still couldn't tell you which of my records have certain masters in a certain way, are all analog or anything like that. Because I'm just listening to them because I like music and I need something to put on and sing to while I'm doing the dishes. You know.
Ultimately, yeah.
That's a great way to end that segment.
While I'm doing the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, it just like completely, to your point, shows like how devalued something like this is. Hey, but good for MoFi. They made some good money for.
We'll move along, but
Well,
what I also love about this story is like this is something that unless you're completely tuned in to the vinyl world, you would never know. You would never like. No, this isn't headlining news, but like for those of us who are interested in it, it's like, oh, got him. Don't fuck with cats. That is going to take us to the review portion of this episode. This one we're going to do the Flatliners New Ruin. And I'm 100% confident that this one was brought up by Mr. Chris Marcanti. So I'm gonna let you get started on this one, buddy. Chris,
Josh.
Flatliners New Ruin. First of all, give us a little bit of your background with the Flatliners. Let us know, where you are with them as a band, and then let me know where this one fit in that spectrum.
Yeah. I don't know when I caught on to the Flatliners, or what album necessarily was the one that did it, but I've been listening to the Flatliners for quite a long time. We saw the Flatliners with Hot Water Music and Dave House. There was somebody else at that show?
No,
at the Metro.
That was it.
And it was just an outrageously good show. I think that show solidified a love for the Flatliners.
Yep.
I feel like they're one of the more underrated punk bands that are out there and have been out there and have like continued tour, I was listening to Chris Cresswell, the lead singer, on the Krista Makes podcast, and I didn't realize they've been a band for like 20 plus years.
It's literally their first record came out in 2004.
Yeah,
so
they were like
about 20 years. Yeah.
Teenagers, writing punk music or writing records and touring and everything like that. So I wholly believe they're one of the most talented, underrated kind of punk bands out there right now. Yep. The new, and by the way, like when I started seeing Chris Cresswell pop up with Hot Water Music, it was like you almost call it like a super group or whatever, where you're like, oh my god,
god.
It's like exactly the voice that I want to show up in Hot Water Music songs. But the new record, New Ruin, is like gonna be one of my favorite records of this year. One of the things that Chris Cresswell was talking about in the Krista Makes podcast is every record they try and do something different. They also do this very interesting thing where they write the songs, they'll write the record, and then sit on it for like 6 months to a year. Instead of like immediately going to put it down, so that way they can. He was like, we always add the ear candy, like the thing that you listen to a song that you wrote, and then you're like playing it live or whatever, and you happen to do this one vocal thing instead of another vocal thing, or somebody adds a harmony where it didn't used to be. He's like, that's why we sit on them for so long, is because we know that stuff takes time, and so and then we always add them. Everything always goes to the record, and so that way you're not listening to it 6 months later and go like, ah, damn it, I wish we had thrown that in there. And I think that adds
literally I've been there.
Yeah, I think that adds to their songwriting, because there's some like parts in this record where like there's backup vocals that you go like, oh, this is something different.
I'm going to highlight this, like those. I was going to ask you about those background vocals. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and so I think the record kicks off with like something almost like hardcore metalish in that first song. But I'd say that my favorite song on the record is Oath. I think that song just absolutely shreds and rips. So anyway, the top record, one of the top records of the year. It's been in hard rotation since it came out. And I'm excited to try and catch them when they come around.
Yeah. What else can you say? Nothing can be said.
Yeah.
Dane, what about you? Where does Flatliners fit with your history for them? And then if you've got a little bit of history, where does this one kind of fit in their discography for you?
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I became a Flatliners fan back when I had that blog thing, the switchboard sessions that I used to have. Where like I used to interview bands and have them like record some of their songs like over the phone in like this analog kind of way. So I think Cavalcade came out, which is their second album. Right. And I feel like I was very, very close to interviewing them, and I'm not sure what happened. Because I don't think I ever ended up talking to them, but it was like one of those things where I was going back and forth and digesting the record really closely, and I think Cavalcade, I remember being like a really good rowdy album. Rowdy's probably not the right word. I remember feeling,
I liked it.
I remember it feeling heavy. I remember it feeling but controlled and heavy for a punk record. And I remember really loving his vocal melodies, and that it wasn't just, at the time, I think there was a lot of bands that were trying to sound like I don't know, maybe like Hot Water Music, like really gravelly vocals and stuff like that.
Doing Men.
Yeah, there were a lot of bands like that.
Yeah.
Cavalcade, I remember that one kind of emerged. That was the album where they kind of emerged for me, like, oh, this band is a little different than the others. But I haven't listened to them since. I mean, I think I've enjoyed their albums on and off. Like, I've heard songs and I've enjoyed them. So this is kind of a return to the Flatliners for me. And I think I was surprised at how, like, maybe not punk some of these songs sounded. And I don't mean that obviously, like this album's a punk album, and like Performative Hours is like got a lot of like really punchy, like it's a song to kick off the album. That's got a lot of screamy kind of vocals and a lot of, but I think there's a lot of like folky country-ish sort of vibe to this album.
Yes.
It's definitely not a folky country album, but it's got that kind of rock and rolly, rootsy sort of boogie to some of them at times. but it's not enough to like overtake the punk kind of, so for example, Big Strum is kind of like that. It's
I was
kind
gonna
of
say
got
Big Strum is the
right.
yeah.
It's kind of got like a swaggery kind of vibe to it. My favorite song is Rat King, and part of the reason why is it's just got a really like the beat really lands really heavy, and it's got a very sing-alongy chorus. And when we were listening to the album for the first time, my oldest Emmett was like, "I like this song." And when my kids are paying attention enough to actually say that, I think he liked the song though, because it was about rats, and he's been carrying around all of these rubber rats all summer, and just leaving.
Is this song about rats, Dad? Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I dig that. I like rats, and I'm like, all right. But I do think obviously
you should make him like a rat playlist, like just a bunch of songs about rats.
Yeah, I could do that. But I do think this album or this song kind of captures the thing I like about this album, where it's like definitely a punk album, but it's catchy in a way that most punk albums aren't. It's got kind of this rock and rolly, like, I don't know what to call it, but you guys like alt country kind of like.
It's kind of like that alt country.
It's got a twang to it.
Twang is probably a good way of putting it, right?
Yeah.
There's some, but it's peripheral. It's not like driving these songs.
It's not like Nashville twang. It's like
right, not at all. But it's also like almost too catchy for a punk record, but it never loses its grit either.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think Rat King kind of. I wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like groove into that song like while I walk to the bathroom or something. You know what I mean? So
got the old man bladder. Let me add to the Rat King. Olive loves the song Rat King because of the Nutcracker. They fight the Rat King and the Nutcracker. So she thinks she walks around singing "Feed the Rat King" because she thinks it's a song about the Nutcracker, which like couldn't be further from the opposite.
Listen, I love that our kids love this song.
Yeah.
You know what I
for
mean?
different
Like,
reasons.
Yeah,
For
what a
different
weird thing what a weird coincidence.
My
between
daughter
them.
loves the Rat King.
Yeah.
By the Flatliners.
What do you think, Josh?
Yeah.
Tell us what you disagree with us.
So I think I can't disagree. I'm not going to disagree with anything you guys have said. Definitely my introduction to the Flatliners came through Chris, for sure. I think it was, for me, it was like that 1-2 punch of, it might have been like Cavalcade Dead Language, like around that. I was like those were kind of the 1-2, like these, from that point on, I've listened to everything that they've put out. Inviting Light was great.
Inviting Light was so good.
And like, what's funny about like the Flatliners is every time that they come out with a record, I'm like addicted to it. And it like further kind of each time it further solidifies them as like literally one of my favorite bands. And this one did not disappoint in any sense for me. Those things that stuck out to me that like, I think I would have a hard time if somebody doesn't listen to kind of punk rock or like listen to these kind of bands. Like I would think I would have a hard time saying like, here's what makes them different. If someone was like, well, sell me on them, I'd be like, ugh. I think what I would say is just that it's like the finest versions of this style of like alt rock, punk rock, twangy rock, with a harder side to it. It's just the finest version of it.
It's about as solid as it comes. Like
literally.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So, songs that grab me, Oath, It'll Hurt, and then Souvenir really got me. I really like. I think it's like to the halfway point and back kind of seemed like it was more my jam for this record. Like it's almost like it was like calmed down a little bit and kind of like got into the groove. But that isn't to say that the front half isn't great. It just I see what they did, and there's nothing wrong with that. I appreciate it. I love it. I actually, as a listening experience, it's like you get hyped for the front half, and then it's like, okay, but here's what here's what you expect. It's almost like what like Thrice would do sometimes, where it's like, here's the big ones that you came for, and then here's kind of what we're doing now.
And then here are the songs too that will kind of earworm themselves into your brain and that you won't forget about. And then like, I don't know, 5 years from now when you come back to the record, you'll be like, shit, this song is great. Why haven't I been listening to this record for the past 5 years? You know,
like
that kind of-
Heirloom, which is number 10, is like
Yeah,
fucking
100%.
wonderful. Here's my question to you guys, along those lines of like not being able to separate between, this is me, not being able to like accurately describe the differences between this band and another band. Oh, I forgot to mention that the background vocals in so many of these songs add such a like an air and a dimension to them as a band. And I was like, oh, I love it. I can't wait to see that live. Hopefully they can replicate that.
And I would say real quick, in some of those background vocals things, that's where they stop being a punk band and start writing like,
yeah, I don't know,
boogieing grooves or something like.
I don't know.
That's a
some of it,
horrible
but
way of describing
each
it.
one of those,
Yeah.
each time that those popped off, it like really perked my ears up. I really, really liked it. And I wonder if some people like really hate it, but I really, really liked it. Okay, here's my question to you guys. This year, we've talked about Flatliners, New Ruin, and we've also gone over New Hot Water. I forget the name of the record right now.
Feel
Help
the
me out,
Void.
boys. Thank you. Feel the Void. You got to pick one.
Hot
Chris.
water music.
Yeah,
Sorry.
absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, feel the void. Yeah, without a doubt.
I feel like I'm going Flatliners.
Oh wow, really?
I know.
That's interesting.
I know. I asked myself this as I was listening to it. And I don't know. It's like,
But no one was there to answer
yeah, well,
the Hot Water Music name of the album.
yeah. No, I asked myself like, which one do I want to listen to more? And like, whereas like Hot Water's more punchy and more like kind of aggressive in certain these, the way that this record kind of like gets into that groove, I was like, I think there's more, for me, there's more of a repeatability to this record. So that's why I was curious. I just wanted to hear you guys.
I think you're making a great point. This one definitely is more poppy. Like the Performative Hours is a perfect example of something that like it kind of hits you at the first notes of it, hits you in the teeth. Every time they come back to that like interlude, it hits you in the teeth. And then you get to the chorus and it's like performative.
Yeah.
Like it's a very dancey song when you get to the chorus. There's nothing quite like that in Feel the Void, where you're like, it's very much you came to get what you want to get from Hot Water Music.
Yeah.
And this is more of like I'm stretching out of if Hot Water Music is like the baseline of your punk sort of whatever, like I'm stretching out a little bit into something that's maybe a little more poppy or in some ways dancey.
Yeah. That's it.
yeah.
Yeah. But Dane, hardcore for you, definitely Hot Water.
Yeah.
Between the two
and
of
I
these,
think, but that's just because I drink my coffee black without sugar. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what
I'm drinking.
I mean, like,
milkshake at
obviously
5
that's a
a.m.
metaphor, but you know what I mean? Like, I sometimes like my music a little darker, a little rougher around the edges, melodic.
yeah.
I like my music melodic, but I also like it like, I would rather it be scratchier and not as polished. That's not to say, though, that this album isn't,
Scratchy.
you know, scratchy and not polished. It's just
Yeah.
a different kind. And
Yeah.
and honestly, you know, I like the question, but we don't have to pick. Like,
No,
I'm gonna
no,
listen
no,
to
no,
both
no.
of
It's
these
just-
albums.
No, for sure.
You know
Like,
what I mean?
Yeah.
And like that's the thing that I like.
way
is
to
like,
undermine it, Dave.
well, I'm not trying.
Oh, you did.
Damn it!
Thanks
but
for-
what I
thanks
mean
for-
is like
thanks for
I'm
playing the game.
thankful. I'm thankful that I can have
I'm
both.
not gonna play the game.
No, thank you.
I know that tomorrow is my first day of school, and this is the
Guys are gonna
record
get
I'll be
hurt.
listening to all day long. You know what I mean?
Flatliners is?
Yeah, all day long in my classroom. This will probably be the record I'm playing.
Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
as my students walk in, this will be their first impression of me for the entire year.
That's a rad first impression.
That's a great, yeah. I mean, it's not, yeah.
To me, that's like, I always kind of think like, what would I show my wife and what would I keep from her? Like, I don't think I'd show her my penis. I don't think I would show her my hot water and be like, hey, you're really going to enjoy this, because she would appreciate it, but she really wouldn't enjoy it. Whereas like Flatliners, I'm like, hey, you're going to enjoy this. And she really would. So for your students, I would wonder if that's kind of the same thing where it's like,
No,
hey,
they don't. They like
Hot
trap
Water's gonna-
music.
fucking.
They're just like,
All right. I'm gonna hey, hey. That's pretty
sorry,
good.
that probably sounded awful coming out of
muted a little
your
bit.
headphones.
Yeah, but it did
like,
limit it a little.
It like
yeah.
Zoom limited it for a second there. Chris, for the year, Where's this one going to sit for you?
It's going to sit very, very high up. Boy, I feel like this year has just been a cavalcade of,
There you go.
Boo.
of good
Boo, boo.
of good record. Boo. Of good records. So it's a tough competition out there. Tough field.
Yeah.
Tough field out there. A lot of competitors, a lot of people putting in the effort. But I think this is going to be pretty high up.
Yeah. Dane, same for you?
I always have a hard time deciding, is this going to be a record
Boo.
that
Boo, boo.
that's going to be a top record? I definitely could see this being a top 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. I definitely will be getting a lot more plays out of this one. Like, this is not one that I'm going to be like, I'm done listening to this now that I've gotten a week or two of listening out of it. You know, I think this one will kind of follow me into the fall.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, I do feel like this is kind of my intro to the fall record for sure.
Yeah. Isn't it weird that some records are like that? This one kind of opened the door to that season for me, for sure.
Yeah.
It's guys, it's the first week in August, second week in August.
fall,
Leave it alone.
y'all.
I guess you're starting work. That's really the
Dude, there's like a feeling that happens. And a certain point in the summer, it usually happens late June late July for me. When
Late
all of a sudden
June.
you're like, not late June, not late June, but late July, all of a
Immediately.
sudden, like the humidity hits in a way and you're like, shit, it's fall. And then you walk right into Walmart and there's a back to school section. You're like, damn it. It all
Fall?
there's a
happens.
bunch of like
Fall-
Christmas shit in Walmart.
Fall used to make me really sad because it was like the changing of the leaves and the changing of the seasons that I was like, oh, I don't want things to change. I like the summer. So I've gotten over that. But yes, same thing for me. It's going to get probably maybe even more rotation, maybe even a little bit higher up than you guys. But yeah.
But Dane, for the record, you should dip backwards and go into Inviting Light.
I will. No,
Yeah.
now I will. I mean, I definitely will because there's
That record is
And Dead Language.
I know. I've
but-
listened to
but-
both. I did just, I would
Yeah.
like put them on for a second and then just be like, on to the next thing, Now I need to
Yeah.
give them my attention.
Yeah.
Hopefully our listeners do too. With that, let's go ahead and wrap this one up. Dane, where can people find what you're up to?
Jetsam-flotsam.bandcamp.com.
Anything you can wink to that's coming out? that
No,
we're,
honestly, we have nothing in the works. But I am talking to a handful of bands that I am excited about. There's nothing set in stone or anything like that.
Cool.
Which
Chris,
I
what
know
a-
that's a
oh.
bummer. Sorry, guys.
that is a bummer.
I
That
just
is a
want to move
bummer.
on because I'm like, give me a name, or don't say anything.
No, I can't do that.
Yes.
No,
Gi-
because I don't know that I'm working.
Give
yet, but
me a name.
I've
Hey, Dane.
reached out to a
Hey,
couple
Dane.
bands, and they're
Hey,
like,
Dane.
"What?
Hey,
You
Dane.
want to work together?"
Dane.
And I'm like, "Yeah."
Nobody's listening. It's fine.
No,
Give me
I
a
can't.
name.
I
Give
will,
me a name.
but I will text you later if you'd like.
I'm gonna put
Nothing
it on,
is
I'm gonna
like
put it on
set in
Instagram.
stone. That's the only reason.
I'm gonna
Put
put it
that
on
text
Instagram.
on Instagram.
I'll put that motherfucker right on Instagram.
Chris, what about you? Where can people check out what you're up to?
thethrowbackschicago.com
Nice.
where you can get all things the throwbacks.
Nice.
What about you, Josh? Where can people what do you want to plug today?
I want to plug the Rock and Roll Brunch, baby. We're back. Ba-doom, ba-doom, da-doo-da-doom, boom, doom, doo, ba-da, boom, doo, ba-doo-da, boom, ba-da-boo-ba-doo-da.
I was hoping you would harmonize the guitar. No,
Well, there's a
never mind.
lag.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Picked it. Clipped it.
Got it.
Thanks, Zoom.
I think
Got
I think my mic at home here caught it. So
Yeah.
if we needed to, anyway.
I'll relay it over.
Rock and Roll Brunch. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Instagram. You can shoot us an email, rockandrollbrunch@gmail.com. Let us know how you felt about the Flatliners. We're back, baby. We're gonna be back to our regular schedule. So stay tuned. We're gonna have some in-persons. We're gonna have some interviews. We're gonna keep it right here. With that, boys, for me, for Dane, for Chris, check, please.